What if your story could ignite a movement? At New Solutions Network, we merge truth, resilience, and reinvention, fueling shows that cut past the noise and light up what really matters: human potential. Police, athletes, survivors, incarcerated folks, visionaries, we bring raw, real voices the world needs to hear. Want to share your story? Want to sponsor change? Now is the time. New Solutions Network, unlocking the future, one voice at a time.
Hello everyone, I'm Ian Jones and this is the third installment of Sexy Science Time and Psychedelic Mushrooms, the bit you've all been waiting for. Before I start though, obviously at no point are we advocating the use of substances which are illegal in your location. However, inevitably people are asking about what is it like? What is the consumption of psychedelic mushrooms like? And there are three or four kind of groups of ways that people consume. Obviously, we talked in the previous installment about just doing it for fun. Now, there is obviously, and the first way I was introduced to the concept is through Fantastic Fungi and the late Dr. Roland Griffith talking about how he used it to help his patients. He was a psychiatrist, a psychological doctor, dealing with cancer patients, terminal cancer patients. And as part of the MAPS experiments, they gave therapy and increasing doses of psychedelics to people who were facing an end-of-life situation, and every single one of them found a new form of peace and calm and ease with their impending fate and a renewed appreciation for life. So that is probably the most effective way with a therapist under thoughtful and managed doses for a full healing event. Individuals who are into self-help and self-reliance can do this by themselves and to varying degrees of efficiency, obviously all self-reported. There's also a third way, and that's in kind of a group setting. I mean, we talked about ceremonial things. This isn't going to be like one of these big ayahuasca things where people go out into the jungle. This can be in a group setting, even in an urban environment, where part of the group will take the psilocybin. They will choose their dose and take a number of other preparatory steps that we'll try and get into a little bit. And the remainder of the groups stays straight, stays sober, does not take the psilocybin. And these people are trip sitters. It's their responsibility to make sure that people are comfortable and to, if they are showing signs of distress, aka having a bad trip, to maybe give them water, wrap a blanket around them, change the music, that kind of thing, and generally monitor the state and the well-being, just so that the people that are tripping have the best experience that they can. And incidentally, I'm a trained trip sitter. I have yet to actually practice it, but I get a very big appreciation for what that can do for anyone who's tripping and possibly isn't fully aware of their surroundings. It's always great to have someone on standby for that. Taking a little, so what's it like? The sensations in the body are unique to you. One of the first things that people notice will be the visual disturbances, the hallucinations, and I've seen a few fairly decent AI imitations of what that looks like. So if you just want a sense of what that is, you can look these videos up on the internet. So at higher doses, though, that's a whole new ball of wax. Before I get into the higher dose, though, some of the other side effects that are worth talking about and can catch people by surprise a little bit are, for example, yawning. Yawning is very common under the influence of psilocybin, and we all know yawns are contagious as well. So that's one thing. Shivering, so definitely having a blanket handy, something warm to wrap up in. Cold patches. Now, I've heard this said by a bunch of different people on a range of psychedelics, in fact, that the common wet patch is around the groin area. And so one of the more unnerving aspects of taking psychedelics is that uncertainty about whether you've peed yourself or not. So just be on the lookout for that. Complicated by facts like the best way to have a trip is with water available and to drink lots of water. It can help prevent bad trips or distract a person that is having a bad experience. Stomach issues, for sure. It can leave people with a feeling of nausea. And two of the common ways to consume are what they call lemon tech, where you crush up the mushroom, the dried mushroom, with some lemon juice. And I read recently somewhere that if that's done with mashed banana or with a banana to accompany it, that can often eliminate a lot of the nausea feelings that the individuals reporting used to complain about. Oh, and the last one is face ache. If the trip group gets into a laughing situation, gets a lot of giggles, you can end up with almost like a rictus of the face because you've been laughing and smiling for such a long period of time. The dosage matters a lot. It's my concern that when people do it for fun, that they aren't careful enough. One of the things I learned as a trip sitter is to be very specific about dose. It's very easy to underdose and not get anything, to overdose and be completely overwhelmed. So measure your dose. You can't control what you don't measure. So before going into a trip environment, having a sense of what your tolerances are is really important. Taking a quick step back, at low doses, and for me, microdoses typically range, it's my opinion, it's not science, but I've read up on this, so I'm open to being disagreed with, that a microdose can be anything from 10 milligrams of dried mushroom fruit up to about 250 milligrams. I personally feel that once you get beyond half a gram, you're getting into macro-ish kinds of doses. The next scale up is we're getting into the medical dose zone here, and typically people regard medical doses as starting at somewhere around 3 grams, up to about 5. And once you cross over that 5 gram threshold, you're into what a lot of people regard as a heroic dose. I microdose. I take 250 milligram, and I consider it to be as a dietary supplement. And over the course of the 2 years I've been taking it, I feel that I've become a little more focused, a little more creative. It's helped me with my relationship with my wife, and it helps us navigate challenging situations in a more creative way, a more collaborative way. My family members have commented on how much improvement they've seen in my well-being over the time that I've been taking these microdoses. So that's one way to consume, and that can be done on a daily basis or on some kind of regime where perhaps it's a day on, a day off, or you just do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Everyone has their own protocol, and the general idea is that you don't feel anything. You don't get any kind of sense that you are under the influence of anything. It's the same as eating lion's mane or reishi in a single capsule or 2 capsules. Now, at bigger doses, a whole bunch of other things can take effect. And we talked about this in a previous episode. And the ultimate goal at those higher doses is to have what is colloquially called a ego death. And I unfortunately have not experienced this on mushrooms. And even talking with friends that have had it, it does sound like there's an analog. And I'm going to draw on that in the absence of anything else, because in my mid-20s, I took LSD several times. And it was a very memorable experience, because there comes a moment, unlike with alcohol, with cannabis, the whole time I'm under the influence, I feel that I'm still in control. And with LSD, and from what I've heard, high doses of mushrooms, it's pretty much the same experience, that you have to relinquish control. You have to accept this experience as it comes down on you, because it's far more powerful than anything that your brain can rationalize otherwise. And for me, what that felt like, and again, this is kind of consistent with what other people have said as well, that one feels kind of oneself dissolved and become part of the infinite. And I have recollections of being almost a point consciousness in a plane that really connects everyone and everything, every living thing, and even kind of the earth and all its rocks and rivers and oceans are all connected via this one plane. But below it, there's the physical plane as well. And here's almost like a heaven plane or a spiritual plane. And the physical lives are kind of like, if you've ever seen a real detailed analysis of a lightning strike, how the charge builds up in the clouds and attracts the charge on the ground, and then the two things actually meet. And for me, I got the sense that most consciousnesses are kind of at the point where those two things meet. So there's a stream coming down from heaven and a stream coming up from earth, and they kind of meet in the middle. And looking out over this infinite expanse, it's like a lightning storm, and each one of these connections is a living thing, is a person, it's an animal. And in that moment, one gets a feeling of being surrounded by the most overwhelming, unconditional love and of higher powers' influence and benevolence on you, that is a nice touch point to come back to in the real world, because it makes everything feel okay in a way that perhaps you've never felt before. And people yearn for that, and it's a very therapeutic thing to get into that state, because when you come back down, you perhaps have had insights into ways about your life you want to change, things you need to look at, things you need to be introspective about. And there's really only the psychedelic experience can do that for you. And I think that's about all I can tell you from it, from my own experiences. It's difficult to put into words, because there are other points of that journey which you have experiences that you will never be able to put into words. You have feelings, ideas that are so profound that they defy the human body's ability, the human brain's ability to translate that into words. But hopefully I've done something to translate these experiences for you into words, and be careful out there. Thank you for listening.